I asked him, what's going on? I was impressed though. He laid the whole thing out. I'll mention it. That's good.
Okay.
I should get it. I'm saving 143,000. Zero out of there.
Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you take a second, turn off electronic equipment as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Attention, salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please, John.
Mayor Becker.
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo.
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
Item D1, Chief Adams, the loss control report, please.
Yes, Mayor, on January 7th, I met with Rob Garrish from Jenny Montgomery Scott, who controls our inspection and reporting for the MelGIF as part of that. And specifically, this was per the request of Commissioner Blumberg at a prior meeting, that we go out and take a specific look at the outfall pipes and the concern regarding the protruding bolts, etc. We did that, and basically, you know, we can look at what the Army Corps has provided. We can look at what we talked about, which was the potential of cutting the bolts, but then you worry about the, you know, corrosion hazard, etc. moving forward. And one of the other key factors was signage. During the off season, we do leave one sign up the beach. It says, you know, danger, or actually no swimming, keep off, and that's up the beach. One of the things that they did during last summer was they put directly on the outfall pipes, keep off, but we also put signage on each side of the outfall pipes. We take that down during the off season because of the wear and tear factor of the winter months and the storm, etc., the tidal surge and all that. So it was, you know, pretty clear to Mr. Garrish that we do provide 3 separate signs at each location, one on each side of the outfall pipes that says danger, keep off, and then the one no swimming, keep off, that's up the beach directly when you come off the access. They recommended to do that, and they understand why we remove them, which is okay, as long as we have the one sign there during the off season for people entering the beach, that was fine. As far as the bolts and the protrusion hazard, it was our understanding, and when we looked at it, that you still have the potential, even with the covering, for a potential impalement hazard. It does reduce it, but there's still a potential that somebody could be impaled. I don't know that there's a direct solution or an answer to this problem without, you know, figuring out if we could cut them and then recoat them, and I don't think that's the answer. So we didn't really come up with a final solution. It was just the recommendation, you know, as set forth in this report. And then it went on to a whole lot of other stuff regarding the signage and the proposal of signage, which Commissioner Amadeo and I spoke about yesterday at length, that we're going to be meeting with Chief Smallwood to discuss it further. So, I mean, we're still kind of back at square one, in essence, regarding these protruding bolts. And we really don't have a definitive answer at this point in time.
So, can I, Mike, if I may, John?
Sure.
Ed, and I don't know if you were part of this original discussion. For me, this is easy. Way easier, and the reason that the Army doesn't want to do it is because it's time consuming. So those bolts can be cut, and they can be capped, i.e. this number 4. So in the picture that you show us, they can be cut back, and they can be capped so that you might have less than a half or 3/4 of an inch that protrudes from that bulkhead. But they need to be cut and they need to be capped, and that will way alleviate, almost eliminate anybody, getting hurt there. If they're cut all the way down and then capped,
Yeah, I think
but they don't want it, they just don't want to spend the time or the money to do it. And I think that's, given that you have to have the bolts, I think that's the solution. So I don't think that there's anything from an engineering standpoint that doesn't allow them to cut those bolts all the way back and then put that little white cap on them. And now you'll have a 3/4 inch, protrusion, which even if a kid falls off, you're not gonna get hurt. You won't get hurt.
I don't disagree, and I think it did say somewhere in there, and I'm trying to find that, where we said at least 2 threads, if they're cut back, at least 2 threads need to be kept on the end. That's what the
And
JIF
you
person
can
at
see
the
from the
said.
nature of the bolt that's holding, to the tie, that you could cut and cap right over that. So you'd have a good fit, and you know what, this problem would go away. But I think it's a lot of work, and that's why they don't wanna do it.
And the only other thing he brought up is, how will they hold up with the weather and the tide?
Was there not an issue that once that cut, it opens
Oh,
it
that
to the
was-
weather?
That was an issue.
Yes, they said that, but that's why we said you gotta cap them. Cause
You
once
cap
you recoat them and cap them, they're not gonna corrode.
Good,
Ed,
that's a good thing.
may I interrupt? Ed, Dennis, if you cut it, I understand cutting into the integrity of the galvanization is gonna change, the steel's gonna rot from the inside out, that's no question. Could they put a bitumistic coating, a tar-based coating like they do on
Like a coal
steel
tar
sheet?
type.
Well, steel sheets.
right.
Anything that's above the water level, the mud level, is always bitumistic coated, or plastic coated, whatever you wanna call it. Couldn't that be done to preserve the integrity of the bolt?
Well, it's like the old saying, you throw enough money at a problem, you can do almost anything. But yes, to answer your question, sure, there are ways you could recoat the bolts, and that's what we talked about as far as, are there any engineering reasons not to do this? It would be because you're then cutting off, you're breaking that seal, the galvanized
Right.
seal.
So then my answer to that would be, why don't we have the JIF attorney send a letter to the Army Corps saying that there's a safety concern and that there is a possible solution for them to come up with the solution?
I think leaning on the JIF makes a lot of sense at this point, because they're the ones
That are protecting us.
Yeah, and I can reach out, through Rob Garrish, I can reach out to Dave DeWeese, speak to him directly, and see if Dave can help us out. One of the things, and I want to note this, that one of the things I noticed when we did this inspection was that some of the other bolts and protrusions that were at ground level were already rusting and corroding, and they're not cut. Yeah, and this was ones that were not cut or even touched. So there already is rust and corrosion on some of these as it sits now. So anything we do would only better the potential of future corrosion.
So, before you do that, my suggestion.
Take pictures.
to consider would be, is to get together with Ed and help him, see what he's willing to do as an engineer. He's got to put his name on it. As our engineer, to say pretty much what he's just said here publicly. Yes, we realize that it's gonna do this, so they don't come back and say, well, it's gonna ruin the integrity of the bolt or something. But then use John's example of how you fix that problem before they tell you that that's the problem.
Right.
So that when you're going with the attorney who doesn't know much about this, you're
Absolutely.
giving him all the information that he needs to be able to craft a letter that he's comfortable with.
And then it'll allow the Army Corps to put their thinking cap on and come up with maybe even a better
Right.
process. And as far as the rusting goes, and Ed could attest to this, that's probably from impacting the bolts onto the threaded galvanized, and it chips off, and
Yep.
that's why you
Right.
you get it.
But, that's the only point that my difference, like to back up what Commissioner Blumberg's saying, what's the difference then? As far as
True.
if it's getting
It's getting
removed
chipped
when
no
you're
matter
putting
what,
the,
yeah.
then what's the difference if you cut it? It's gonna be removed anyway. So either way, you're still in the same point, but it might be a safer alternative.
Our great grandkids are gonna be replacing those bolts. That's how long it's gonna take them to rot away. big, fat, ugly things. We'll all be glad.
Can I ask you a question?
Listen, I already got 2 of them, so do I sign them up?
I got a grandchild on the way, not great.
Can I ask you a question of these bolts? I look at them virtually every day, because I'm on the beach every day. There was, I don't know, I'm just a lawyer. Couldn't you either countersink these so that the heads are below the surface of the existing wood, or else put another piece of wood over it so that it is below the surface of the wood, so a kid or somebody can't rip their leg apart on these things? Why can't we do that on these? Wouldn't that work?
There's probably a lot of, there's a lot of bolts, that's a lot of holes you'd have to drill.
Well, you know what? You take they're basically the same measurement.
Right, like a
You take a
hollow
piece of
box.
wood and put it on there, and just so now, here, the bolt's inside
Right.
of that. Hey, Christ, that would save so much.
Right, box it out.
Well, it just seems to me that these
Box
are
it out,
horrible.
Well,
they
the
are.
problem is
And,
there's so
and
many.
somebody's, somewhere down the
on
line,
each
is gonna
outfall
get their
plate.
leg ripped up real bad. So, you know,
Because the problem is there's so many on these outfall pipes, because every section that they connect together, you look, there's like 8 or 10 of the bolts on each of those sections.
But you look at other
Do we
jobs
want
in other
them to fix
places,
it, or
they
do we
can't-
want somebody to get hurt and we have to
No,
fix
we
it?
want them to fix it if it's
Okay, all right.
possible,
Well, they could
absolutely.
have countersunk these. It's just cheaper to do it this way.
Well, that's what, I think Commissioner Amadeo said it the last time we discussed it, is they come in lengths, and that's what they use. The lengths that are
They
there,
have the same
that's
length
what's there.
bolt. They have all different types of connections, and then simplify it so they don't have to sort out 5 different types of bolts. They have one length, and some of them
Let's
stick
make
out, some of
a
them don't.
demand on it. No, oh, we don't wanna do it? Tough
Well,
shit, but, hey,
as-
it's a hazard.
Per Rich's recommendation, I will get with Mr. Dennis, and we will,
Okay.
Thank you.
come up with that, and then
Good job.
present it to Dave DeWeese from the JIF.
From a safety standpoint, we're on record,
Absolutely.
Good job, Dan, thank you. All right, let's go to department head reports, and Dan, why don't you continue? We'll start with you.
Okay, Mayor, the fire department's been very busy and supporting, and thankfully, the help of the Public Works Department and the Building Department. There's been a lot of water breaks over the last several weeks, and we've all been working in cooperation together to take care of the problem and to prevent, future problems and/or that. So to go on record again, anybody, please, if you have your outside water on, your connections, different things, please shut them off and make sure they're drained properly. So, because as soon as we get this next freeze, just like the last one, we're gonna have it again. Last Tuesday, we traveled up, myself and Chief Clayton from Longport, traveled up to the Philadelphia Fire Academy for the Operation 6 Save a Life campaign. And we were able to bring back 80 smoke detectors for the city of Margate through that campaign. And one of the things that stuck out was something that Fire Commissioner Thiel said, and it was, he goes, "Fire is everyone's fight." And when you think about that, in reality, of all of us, it's not just the fire department's fight, it's everyone's fight. It's your fight at home to make sure that your home is fire safe and make sure you're prepared, make sure that you have a working smoke detector. So I really, that came through, and I actually watched him on the news yesterday because Philadelphia's had a number of fatal fires. As of that Tuesday when I was there, they already had 7 or 8 fatalities in Philadelphia, and I think since that week, there's another 4 just in the past week, fatal fires. But he mentioned that again yesterday and saying that fire is everyone's fight. So that's a key point for me to stick out to everyone here and to the public to understand that. It's not just you have a fire, you call the fire department. There's preventions and things you can do beforehand to make that better. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Lisa?
Okay, thank you. I just want to go over a few of the things that I've been working on in finance for the last few weeks, give you an idea. Reconciled all our 16 bank accounts. I closed out the books for 2018. And one key point that's notable I want to mention to all of you, a preliminary number for our fund balance. Now, keep in mind, these are unaudited, but our fund balance as of, December 31st has increased by about 1.6 million over last year. The ending balance is 6,082,737, which is up from 4,561,000 last year. The major reason for that is because when we, one of the things that goes into the fund balance is when we lapse the appropriation reserves. Those are appropriations from the 2 years prior that are unexpended. So you have to wait for 2 years. So the remaining appropriations that were in our budget that were unexpended and available are closed out and went into fund balance. For the last few years, usually it's around 600,000, 800,000. For this year, it was around 1.6 million. You're going to ask me, why is that so high? Are we over budgeting? Well, a large degree, at a quick glance, when I looked at it, a large portion of that were excess appropriations that were funded for salary and wages that we did not use. We were able to reduce that due to reduction in overtime, for one, in the various departments. And there were numerous retirements where we had initially funded these employees for the full year, but they had retired prior to year end. So that really added to the amount remaining in that appropriation. So that's good news for us. So I think, I started preparing the budget for 2019, and I am trying my hardest to get it to you, but there's a lot of things that keep interfering with that. No, just keep in mind, I think we're in good shape at this point. I don't anticipate requiring an increase in taxes going forward, especially, with such a hefty fund balance going forward. In addition to that, I prepared and entered our temporary budget for this year. I entered about 26 contracts in our accounting system and created purchase orders for each of them. I resolved issues for past due accounts owed on some of our vendors. I also established 3 new investment accounts with the New Jersey Asset Rebate Management Program, which I had notified the commissioners and Rich about a few times that I was going to do it, but it unfortunately took me a few months before I was able to get the time to do that. And after I opened up these accounts, I transferred $6.5 million into that account. And last time I checked, it was earning interest at 2.73%. What I can do is I could sweep funds between our main operating accounts and these investment accounts as needed. I have to maintain and keep an eye on the cash flow requirements that we have. There's no restrictions into the number of transfers. And meanwhile, we're realizing a much higher interest rate than we're receiving at Ocean First, which is currently 1.05%. So it's more than double that. So for the year 2019, I'm anticipating realizing a much higher interest earnings. Okay, I prepared all the 1099s and mailed them out for all our retirees in our lifeguard pension plan. Submitted wires for our debt service totaling over $2.9 million. I prepared all the documents necessary for preparation of the annual debt statement and the annual financial statement. The annual debt statement, which you'll know by an email I had sent to you about a week ago, has been prepared and sent to the DCA, and it has been uploaded to our website for anyone who wishes to view that. I processed 2 payrolls, and all the 2018 W-2s for all the employees have been processed and distributed to all the employees. Met with 4 new employees, enrolled them in health benefits and various other benefits. Prepared the quarterly statements for 2 law enforcement trust funds. Calculated 6 sellbacks for 57 employees. Reviewed 345 purchase orders and corresponding payments for accuracy. I prepared invoices for amounts owed to the city for certain agreements. Provided additional trainings to employees on entering purchase orders and entering systems, entering purchase orders into our Edmund system, which will help facilitate the process. I also implemented ways to hopefully facilitate the whole payment process to all of our vendors. My goal is to, at one point, begin paying the majority of our vendors electronically to help reduce postage costs, which seems to increase several times a year. However, we're tied, there's certain things that have to be done according to the state before that's done. So it's on my radar, but we're just not able to do it because we don't have all the necessary controls in place. Let's see. Entered all the information necessary to prepare the Form 1095s that were required to distribute under the Affordable Care Act. What else? Okay, the 1099s for all our vendors, there was 117 1099s that were prepared, and I uploaded that and filed it with the IRS. As you know, our payroll clerk unfortunately is unable, well, okay, she's been ill and out of work, but with the assistance of Fred, I went to her house. She has been able to do her job. I communicate with her on a regular basis. I send files home on a regular basis. And right now, she is back to, fulfilling all of her necessary duties and obligations, and I'm assisting her in any way that I can. Okay, certified funds, I funded petty cash. I reviewed, we have our first reimbursement request under that DR 4264 grant for the home elevations. That's the grant that we're in partnership with Longport and Brigantine. So the first home, which was actually a Brigantine property, has been completed. I received the request reimbursement to sign off from Mr. Rutala. I reviewed that and signed it. However, we did receive an email, which I forwarded to Mr. Deeney, because there are other, there's additional documentation that needs to be submitted. Let me see. Okay. As I said, I'm in the process of preparing the budget. We're scheduled to introduce the budget on the first meeting in March, which I believe is the 7th, with the adoption, the first meeting in April. Also, there was recent legislation, as you know, that was enacted for minimum wage, where there's going to be a phase-in over the next several years to $15 an hour. I reviewed the law as it stands, and I forwarded it, to Rich and all the department heads for their further consideration to see, so they could review all the part-time employees. The seasonal employees do not take effect. The increase doesn't take effect until 2020, but for other employees, the minimum wage begins July 1st of this year at $10 per hour. So that's for all, hourly employees. The seasonal employees are different than that. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Johanna, do you have anything?
Not at this time.
Chief?
I have nothing to report.
Rich?
Two quick things. One, I received a copy of the master license agreement fully signed, and I'll defer to the solicitor when it's his time, but I just wanted to congratulate Roger and the solicitor and everybody else. Something we've been working on for over a year, something that was of concern to all of us with respect to when these utilities come to town and want to put up these new facilities to accommodate our needs for wireless in the community. Where they're going to be located, how they're going to look, and how's it going to work. And the ordinance that you passed worked very well. The first application came in. It was referred to Roger and the solicitor, and first agreement with Verizon Wireless apparently is signed. And again, I'll defer to Scott when it's his turn. The only other thing I have is I was asked by the clerk to mention that there's been a request by a private vendor to rent beach chairs and things on the beach. I haven't spoken to any of you on this, but given everything that's happened on the beach, I have two concerns. I really think that we should not entertain this at this point, and even if we were to entertain it, because I think we need to go through a summer with everything fixed and the Army Corps out of here and see how everything works and how it interferes with it, whatever operation we have and the Moby mats and all the rest of it, number one. Number two, that changes the dynamics of the beach, which is your decision at some point if you want to consider that. Number three, if we did it, we'd have to go out to bid. And number four, I'm familiar with this, and they cite it in here in the sense that they or others have operated similarly in Ocean City at specific locations. And it does work okay at those locations for Ocean City. But the fact is, the city owns those locations. I'm familiar with that from the past. So the city is putting that out to bid. It's not like you just come on the public beach and all of a sudden do that. There were specific locations. So it's a lot more complicated legally without even dealing with the solicitor on this at this point. I just don't see it for this season unless you think otherwise.
I think your advice is, well, it's good, Rich, thank you.
Taking it off your back. You don't have to make the. Good.
You're the bad guy.
Can we communicate? Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ed, you have anything else?
Nothing that.
Roger?
Couple things, Mayor, thank you. Just a quick question to Dan, talking about fire. In light of the fires in Ocean City recently and prior to the CL City, what is your belief on residential sprinklers? I mean, I imagine you're for it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the fire service has always been for residential sprinklers. It sometimes comes back to the building trade that's been against it. You look at any of the large fire department organizations, whether it's the International Association of Fire Chiefs or just the International Association of Firefighters, and they are all strongly in support of residential sprinklers. The other key factor is, especially in these homes that are going vacant for a majority part of the year,
Nobody's watching it.
at least have a fire alarm system tied into a central station. Because when those fires, believe me, most fires, big fires don't start, big, they start small. And if there was an early warning system in those that's tied into central station, for some of these, there would be a big difference. I mean, Sea Isle was in the middle of the afternoon, and that went, out of control quickly. Ocean City was at, 3, 4 in the morning, and only 2 blocks from a fire station. And that was
40-mile-an-hour winds
progressive.
and it burned,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I guess my point is, it got shot down by legislation. Again, where I'm coming from is maybe we should recommend it. We can't require it.
We can, and I can actually get some documentation from the Division of Fire Safety where we could even, whether it's through a resolution or something initially, but we can do something in strong support on the city's end, and I can get that information and get it to the mayor and commissioners to review, and something we could put on an agenda or a topic to try and support residential fire, sprinklers.
I mean, both cases, one house caught fire and 3 burned down. And as a second investment for a lot of these people here, I mean, that's an investment I'd want to protect.
Even in some of the new NIST studies in that, just by the reduction of temperature in these dwellings during a fire, which a sprinkler system would do, it increases the survivability of livable people. Versus when you don't have water or something on there, the temperature continues to rise, and all it takes is one superheated breath that someone takes, and their life has ended.
And
So.
they're surrounded by accelerants and your demonstration with the furniture on the
And,
inside.
yeah, well, thankfully, and Jim, I could be, you probably answer this better than I, but the hurricane-proof windows, they stopped that code, correct?
Yes.
Because that was another hindrance for firefighters in buildings too, because the fires are going
Couldn't break the
undetected.
window.
They're sealed up tight, we can't break the window to ventilate, it creates more of a potential hazard for firefighters. Plus, think about all the components of everything's built. Everything's built with a petroleum-based product today, compared to cotton, wood, and natural products,
Asbestos.
20, 30 years ago. So Yeah, absolutely, Roger, and thank you for bringing that up because it's a strong point, and it's something we definitely could look forward or look toward doing in the future of promoting that for Margate City.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for your input on that. Just got received word, we have a meeting next Wednesday at the police station roof. So, Chief, I might need access to it down there. Fred, I forwarded you that email also. Johanna and I are updating the planning board application handbook for online to make it easier for applicants. That was never updated yet. And I think Jim has some numbers for zoning and planning.
Sure. Are you done?
You done, Roger?
I'm done, thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Hey, Mayor. Yeah, we've tried, the building officials have tried to get the sprinkler systems passed for the last 10, 15 years, and they just keep, it just gets up there and then it gets shot down.
Yeah,
I mean,
but what's the reason? There's a counter argument, right? It's 15 or 20,000.
It's gone down.
Plus in all these vacant homes, if it freezes, destroyed by the time they find out the water broke. I mean, that's one of the counter arguments, right? And there is a counter argument. It isn't, oh, we want to see people die.
Yeah, but
That's not the
There's
reason.
ways that can be addressed.
and Scott, you're
Yeah,
talking
alarm
about,
systems.
you're talking about beachfront properties. It could work very well in Linwood and all the other towns out
I
where
know,
people
and
live
I've gone
full
to the
time.
demonstration, I saw the trailer, and they showed how because of all the plastics used, the fires go like that. They go much faster now than they did 30 years ago, just like you said. But there is a counter. I mean, it just, oh yeah, let's force new homes to have sprinklers. We gotta think about it hard.
As I said, I'm not for forcing them, I'm for recommending them.
I hear you, and I'm not fighting with it. You might be right to do this, but it's expensive. And would you say we had 200 some pipes freeze? What happens when they freeze? And have a sprinkler system. The entire home's destroyed. I mean, if that water runs for a number of hours before somebody's aware, I'm not
Okay.
arguing, but there's a counter.
We'll,
There's also sprinklers that run on the outside.
why don't we have this discussion another day? Jimmy?
Okay, so today Margate hosted the Coastal Monthly Coalition meeting with Tom Quirk, and it's also the program for public information. Great attendance. I've never seen so many people come. We had a full house. And thanks, Dan, for the lunch last week. That was really good. So we had 16 zoning applications, 6 new houses, and it's just, the plans just keep rolling in. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. Frank?
Yeah, after our last meeting, we went out to Bayside Court, and we also went out to Seaside Court and took the shields off the pipes. The water is draining fine now. There's no obstruction in the pipe. With these heavy rains, hasn't been any flooding at all in the gutters or anything.
That's real.
Yeah, it was those plates.
But let's wrap that
Rich?
thing up.
Go ahead.
How do we communicate that accurately back to, we asked the engineer to look into it, you've looked into it, I think it's fixed too. I mean, that's what I told the engineer, but a simple letter from somebody that says this is what we believe is a problem, keep us informed, thank you for bringing it to our attention, closes that loop for that whole group of people in that neighborhood.
Suggestion, very good point. Communication to that homeowners association is very important. What we need to do is just inform them that we feel we solved the problem, but we need further assistance in monitoring it to make sure that it doesn't occur. So a 2-paragraph letter, we have the addresses.
I'll be glad to do it. I communicated with that person that sent it. Was it Rosen?
Yeah,
Somebody?
Bob, yeah.
But I just would
I've
like-
spoken to him twice. He was very appreciative, so they do know, but I think the letter is
I'd
that
like
the
to close
proper.
it so they can send it to the rest of their group, but I just want to make sure that Ed concurs with everything we're saying here.
What I can add is that our office reviewed the video as well, Frank, and
Right.
there were no collapses, no blockages, anything like
So
that,
we
so.
can put all that in the
Right.
letter.
Well, on the letter,
Yep.
right, include that.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Rich.
Can you
Thank
just
you, John.
wrap it up and send me a letter on it, because you were working on that?
Sure.
Then I won't misquote you.
Well, yes,
Frank,
my turn, I guess, we did get the Verizon master license agreement for their cellular phone upgrade system. And I want to thank particularly Roger, for the effort that he put in with his technical background, that we created. I think we're one of the first towns down here to create this master license, which will enable our people to have better phone service, because the tremendous amount of demand to use these phones. You think about it, you want to look at your grandchildren, a video, whatever, it all takes a service. And now we will have an upgraded service, and we will have some ability to control where it is and what it looks like. We can't prohibit it. The FCC wouldn't allow that. So Roger's been handling that. We have one of the first. I think a couple towns have asked us to look at what we did. And remember, we hired a consultant to give us some advice and move forward on it. Now we have two more. I think AT&T and Singular are now coming in to get their approvals to put, I don't know what you call them, whether they amplify or there's the CADs, but they make the system work better. So we were a leader on that, and I think Roger had a big hand on that too, and I appreciate it. Okay, so we did have our Coastal Coalition meet here today. And again, that's something I'm very proud of. They came from all over Cape May County, Atlantic County, and they came here to meet today, and that is this organization that didn't exist before Sandy, where we communicate with all of our other shore communities that are in flood zones. And we do learn a lot of things, and we do exchange a lot of ideas, and what are they doing in Sea, what are they doing in Brigantine. It's been extremely beneficial. And as you know, we are one of the leaders. We have one of the best ratings for our flood insurance, so that all of our citizens get the discount. What is our rating now? What is it? And a lot of that has to do with Jimmy Galantino's efforts, that he's knowledgeable in this area, and I acknowledge that, and I see it. So we, again, we've been a leader in that area. We're moving forward, and it's been real good. Third thing now, I just happened to be at the Thailand's Resource Council yesterday, which I am every month. And I'm talking about dredging now. As you know, we're moving forward. I think Remington and Vernon's going to eventually come up, and we'll start to review a proposal and what are the criteria and how we want to move on that. Our sister city of Ocean City was there to get their Tidelands license. You'll recall I've mentioned that too. They were going to need it. The state originally wanted $143,000 from Ocean City so that Ocean City could move the sediment, the dredge material, from state waters to other locations. They charge them, I think it's 43 cents a cubic foot or something, which is pretty crazy. But anyhow, the council listened to Ocean City's arguments. This benefits us. And ultimately, the council, Thailand's Resource Council, recommended not this 43 cents a cubic yard or 143,000, just $1,000 one-time payment and $100 a year fee, because it's the city, a municipality, it's one of the first to ask for this type of license. It's the same thing that we're going to need. So I was extremely happy to see Ocean City get that, because if they get it, how can they say no to us? I hope. But eventually we're going to be there. So those are three good positive things that I can think of, and that's about it, Mayor.
Thank you. Frank, did you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Oh, good. Fred, you were out of the room. Do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything to
Thank you.
report.
Maury?
Nothing to report, Mike.
John?
Mayor, yeah, two things I want to touch on. First, I want to bring both Commissioner Blumberg and yourself up to date on the fact that the Margate Pier has been in a conversation with the DEP to extend their pier now that the dune project's coming to completion. They're going to extend the pier by 125 foot. And through the course of their talks, and it looks like that project will start in October, and it will probably finish up sometime in March or April of the year 2020, which is good for the anglers of the association there. But through the conversation with the DEP and the Margate Fishing Pier Association, the DEP is big on public access. They're big on recreation. They're, how do I put it, anytime they can get something from somebody that they're helping out, they're going to try to do that. And as a result, they were speaking with the Margate Pier to actually participate along with the DEP and make part of the pier as a public access point. The fishing part is for the members only. That would be probably the 450-foot mark out to the water's edge, which will be now extended by another 125 foot. But their inner, what they call their inner T, which is high and dry on the land now, and probably 300 to 400 foot of walkway could be opened up for public with access, with steps coming from the beach on the western side, close to the Piers Clubhouse itself, which would have a separate gate for members only. So the street frontage would be members only. The outside, 200, 300 foot of pier would be members only. And the high and dry part that's over sand would become a public access point. So what I wanted both Mayor and Commissioner Blumberg to at least agree with me to allow Rich and Scott, because I believe there is some liability and there will be some opportunity if it ever did come to a partnership with us in the Margate Fishing Pier to start possibly the discussion with the DEP and the people that are involved with the pier and to see where we can go from this point. The only thing I want to conclude is it's pretty similar to what they did with the Ventnor Pier several years ago. They extended that pier and they remodeled it, and they did open up that intersection, when I say the intersection, from their boardwalk out to where the private part is for the public. So you could actually ride your bike out there. This wouldn't happen on the Margate Pier, but the DEP is very proactive in allowing the public to be able to use it. And I think, just my feelings, my personal opinion, I think it would be a good opportunity, because I know how popular in the summer our Margate Fishing Pier, even though that's high and dry low tide, it's a popular venue for people, whether they're eating, have an ice cream cone or eating a Lenny's hot dog, or what's the hot dog station there? Lenny's is dating myself back. Stewart.
No, now it's
Junior.
health food, not
Juniors.
hot dogs.
But with that said, if we can give that, to Rich, we'll be in good shape.
Stewart's Douglas.
They're okay with that.
Good by me.
Good.
That's fantastic. How far do you want to go out, John?
They're going to go an additional 125 foot. They hired an engineer. The state is paying the engineering fees and the construction costs for the pier itself. They're in agreement. They've come to a total agreement. So that's going to move forward, which is good for the Fishing Association. So the other thing I wanted to mention, and I think it just, I know in a lot of situations we live every day and we take life for granted. And living in Margate, we're very, very fortunate to have the qualified, trained individuals that protect us every day. We can be sitting right here, right now, and we're being protected. And the proof is, with our police and fire department, second to none anywhere in this country. I'll put our fire department, our police department, against any other municipality, county, state, or even federal law enforcement. We have had so many end outcomes that are so positive that life can continue, that makes what Margate's so great to live in, and it's such a great town. And I'm not going to mention the names because I don't know if it comes under HIPAA laws, but they're friends of all of us. They've lived here in the town for 50 years. A great couple raised 2 girls that went through the Margate school system, which they have grandkids with. They were home on a Saturday night just doing their normal thing, and the spouse went into cardiac arrest and lost her breath, and the husband called 911. Our police and fire responded in less than 3 minutes, not only to save her life, but to let her, as her grandkids, be able to see their grandmother moving forward. I can't go on to say how proud I am of our police and fire department. The training that goes on, nobody really sees. It happens every day. And when I say every day, they have their routine, whether it's the police department or the fire department. They have their routine, and then when they know that there's additional training that has to happen, it happens. I see the POs every month as I sign them. EMS training, CPR training, all the necessary things to keep us safe. I just want to mention a few of the police officers and the whole platoon of the fire department that were a part of that rescue. The Margate City Police Department officers Steve Swift and Joe Scullion. And as far as our fire department, I don't know what platoon it is, but it's Captain Chris Horning, Lieutenant Eric Race, Brian Duffy, Matt Coley, Joe DiStefano, Jim Hiltner Jr., and Martin Wally. Both firehouses responded to it. They saved a life. And to me, that's one of the most important things that we can live for every day, knowing that we're protected like that. So my compliments go to Chief Dan Adams and Chief David Wilson. Thank you, gentlemen, for the job you do and the leadership you have in both of your departments. Mayor, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. I have nothing today. At this point, we will open to public comment. 3 minutes on any subject that was discussed here at the work session. Is there any public comment?
Sewell 22 West Drive. Mayor, it's good news from the CFO that there's a hefty fund balance going forward. But may I remind you that our sister city of Brigantine, where they have fiscally responsible Republicans rather than rhinos, have managed to have 4 straight years of property tax cuts, which enables our senior citizens to remain in this town. Wait till that 2020 census comes out and see if I'm not dead right about how you've chased the senior citizens out of Margate. It's a disgrace. And I'm sure Brigantine didn't have the luxury of averaging over $35 million in new ratables each and every year. And I think that's a serious consideration. The handout today I received in the mail, unsigned, but you can peruse it and see the question that the person posed at the bottom of the sheet, the spreadsheet, because people want to know, where's the money going? On a different note, on the issue of those bolts and nuts, and as Franklin once said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of care. And I'm sure that Commissioner Amadeo realizes the benefit of high nickel steel in preventing ferrous oxide. It's standard procedure. You have supposed engineers not using this type of nut and bolt system when you have a high salt exposure. This is inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. And on the issue of prevention, when the solicitor mentioned 43 cents a cubic foot potential risk that we may or may not be assessed, I think it's very important, just like you would have in a private sector, have cost projections, cost estimates, taking into account the variability of the different factors that will impact the total cost of this dredging. And if it's going to be on the backs of the senior citizen property taxpayers, I strongly urge that we begin to do what private industry does and begin to make cost estimates. It's not asking a lot. I think it's basic common sense. Keep the remaining 11 seconds.
You got a deal, John. Any other public comment? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
Thank you. We will reconvene in 5 minutes.
I'll make this a little bigger.